I think people don't talk about enough is diversified talent.
Okay.
Which is, people do work a little bit different outside the U.S. Sometimes it's better.
Welcome, audience, to another live edition from the Staffing Industry Association Executive Forum in Miami. This is the Growth Game Podcast. I'm your host, Paul DeLuca, CEO of Meritus Capital, and we're having a blast doing these today. We've got another great guest today, Dylan Hale. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
Really
Paul.
appreciate it, Dylan.
Appreciate being here.
Well, you know what? This is the Growth Game Podcast. And one of the fun things about the Growth Game Podcast is I always start with who you are and how you fell into this role. Tell me a little bit about yourself, something interesting. How did you get into the staffing vendor business?
I ask myself that every day. No, it kind of found me. So I graduated college, like most people, had no idea what I wanted to do.
Right.
Waited tables for 5 years.
Sure.
Realized I like talking to people. Realized I like helping people.
Sure.
I think learning how to serve is a good skill that everybody should
Yeah.
have. And then eventually found my way into the tech world in Texas.
Okay.
Did software sales for a long time.
All right.
Dealt with some layoffs.
Sure.
Typical kind of ups and downs of sales.
Right.
Then I fell into Upwork.
Okay,
actually.
yeah.
And not on the freelancer side, but actually on the corporate side.
Cool.
Selling some of their products.
Mm-hmm.
You may have seen the news. Maybe it was 2021-ish. They laid off 15% of their sales force.
Yeah.
I was part of that 15%.
Oh, boy. You're in the middle of the pandemic. You're like,
Middle of
what am I going to do
What am
now?
I going to do? Shout out LinkedIn. They're here at the event.
Yeah.
I got another job through LinkedIn with an awesome company called
Cool.
Penbrothers.
Yeah.
And it was one of those jobs. I applied to it and I saw there was 500 applicants.
Oh, wow.
One of those kind of shocks to the system, but I
Yeah.
used AI to write my resume.
Nice.
And
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they used AI to sift through the resumes.
Okay.
So my AI lined up with their AI. Got the interview. As you can tell, I nailed it. And
Nice.
here I am.
Nice. Awesome. Sounds good. So you were hired by Penbrothers International as a director of partnerships. So you were focused on how do I build a business through partnerships. Talk to me a little bit about that journey.
So I actually came on in sales.
Okay.
And Penbrothers is based in Manila. We have our HQ there. And we had about, 20, 30 US based customers at that point. And they realized that's a key market for us.
Right.
Somewhere to grow. Companies in the US need to be able to access international talent. We know
Right.
that. So they brought me on the sales side. And then over about a year and a half, they said, wow, we really need to double down on partnerships. We have a couple key partners that we've seen a lot of growth with. So they said, hey, does someone want to step up and take over partnerships? I raised my hand and
Great.
Here I am. So still very involved in sales.
Yeah.
Still have the sales mindset, but
Right.
now starting to tackle how partnerships works. Similar, but a little different.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's funny that you we've sequenced it like this. But my last guest, actually, we were talking about partnerships, and the fact is that many of our audience, many of my clients and prospects, they're in the staffing industry, and they do partnerships as an informal thing.
Yep.
Like referrals and partnerships are informal, but there's a fundamental shift I have found when you really hire somebody to say, listen, this is your baby.
Yeah.
Like you've got to make partnerships work. I think that it creates a whole different formality to it. Do you agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that. And I would say in general, partnerships, it can be a bit vague.
Yeah.
Like what partnerships means for Penbrothers
Right.
could be very different from what partnerships
That's
means
right.
for other people. And incentivizing why someone should be a partner can be
Right.
different from company to company. And so I'm still learning as I go, full
Sure.
transparency. But yeah, I think it's
Aren't we all?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the whole part of I have a podcast and a post recently that talks about, listen, successful people are just ones that admit they're learning all the time.
Exactly.
We don't ever arrive, my friend.
100%. So it's been a journey. The journey's still
Right.
going, but
Good.
I'm enjoying it for sure.
So talk to us about what I know would interest my audience. Now, I speak to, there's about 20,000 staffing companies in the U.S. and Canada.
You got 20,000 watch.
Oh, I think live
You didn't
right now,
tell me that, man.
Live right now. I don't know if they're all tuned in,
Okay.
but they will see you. So Dylan, we hear many times the horror stories of outsourcing.
Yeah.
We know, however, that there are definitely very successful companies in staffing that have successfully outsourced certain aspects
Yep.
of the staffing enterprise. So talk to me a little bit about that. Why are there those horror stories out there? Number one. And number two, what are the key ways to successfully outsource to either the Philippines or India or whatever? Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
Definitely. As far as horror stories go, they happen. And they happen when you hire, locally too.
That's
you
right.
Hire someone who's not a good fit, and there's always inherent risk. Unfortunately, when someone's halfway across the world, those risks are amplified.
Right.
You don't get to meet the person. You don't get to shake their hand, look eye to eye. Maybe that's part of it.
Right.
Cultural differences can
Absolutely.
be part of it. So there's just certain, uncertainty that's going to come with the territory.
Right.
And I think when you start talking about international in countries you're not familiar with, I'll be honest, before this, I wasn't super familiar with the Philippines.
Right.
I wasn't aware of their education level, their English, ability to speak such good English and things along that nature. So there's just kind of what I like to say is like there's clouds in that area. And so you need to find a good partner that can clear away the clouds, somebody that you can trust. And somebody says, yeah, of course, there's inherent risk. There's inherent risk getting out of bed. There's inherent risk hiring someone who's your neighbor, whatever it might be. But when you have a third party to have your back, who's going to guide you through that, then you're able to access the benefits, which is, a lot of benefits when it comes to working with people.
What are the top 3 value propositions that you offer to staffing agencies?
First and foremost, it's going to be cost. And so, 100%, you're going to see significant discounts when you go international. Secondly, though, that I think people don't talk about enough is diversified talent.
Okay.
Which is, people do work a little bit different outside the U.S. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes, you're going to learn something new about the way they do things, and you say, that's something we need to implement. That's something we haven't necessarily been thinking about.
Right.
So you're having this cost benefit, but you're possibly even having a productivity increase.
Okay.
So, not always, but I'd like to say, you're getting a better price and even potentially a better product, which in this case is talent. And then the third is going to be flexibility.
Got it.
We have a lot of staffing companies that, they're working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then they go home and that pile of work just starts piling up and piling up.
Candidate sourcing. What am I doing with these resumes? How do I match the talent to my job recs?
100%. So when you have someone in the Philippines who's working the opposite time zone, now your core HR people here stateside, they wake up to all this work being done.
Right.
And so that's actually a benefit of having the opposite time zone. Philippines is unique. They will work nocturnal. We do have plenty of staff members in the Philippines who work 9 to 5 Eastern.
Got it.
So depending on the company and what their need is, sometimes they're going to have people working while they're sleeping. Other times they'll have resources that are mirroring your work schedule and working the same exact time.
That's great. So talk to me about the, communication. I mean, that's always been the biggest challenge that I've seen. I've done a number of outsourcing initiatives with different companies that I've owned. And that's really been the biggest challenge. But talk to me about how do we, deal with that challenge, number one. And number two, Philippines and English and communication, where does that rate as far as, clear, easy, 100%, we're connecting, it's, we get each other and it works, as opposed to, how do you deal with that whole part of the communication equation?
Definitely. Part of it is training. And not only training the employees we hire and we source, but training our customers and saying, hey, this is some of the cultural aspects that you can expect. That said, in the Philippines, they speak very good English. The Philippines makes up, I think it's over 7,000 islands. And oftentimes they have regional languages. So the common language in the Philippines is actually English. And it's American English, not like British English, which you see in certain areas of the world there. So they have a similar accent to us. They actually have a very strong educational system. Back around World War II, we spent a lot of time there and helped develop their educational system.
Okay.
And their university systems actually mirror ours.
Got it.
They're going to have 4-year degrees, similar type programs. And then they love Hollywood, which is great. And we just had the keynote speaker talking about all the outsourcing or the creation that America does and all the services we provide. And that is one of the biggest things that we actually produce, which is media.
Right.
And so the American English is everywhere now. And in the Philippines, they speak really good English. And when it comes to actual, work communication, we really encourage the customer to bring on this talent just like any other employee. So bring them into your Google, bring them into your Zoom meetings, put them on your Google chat. We're actually hands off when it comes to the day-to-day work. So we source the talent for you.
Got it.
And we act as employer of record. But when it comes to the day-to-day function and the work that happens, we're completely hands off. We say treat them just like you would any other employee.
Regular full-time employee, whether they're working the same time zone as you or they're doing back office work when you're sleeping, they're an employee. And of course you're just a discounted employee that speaks
Exactly.
great English
Exactly.
that shows up to work regularly. That's interesting. I've had some really personal experience. I don't currently have any employees in Philippines, but I've had some amazing experiences with some of my vendors that have a couple of great employees in Philippines that are just putting out product at a very, very quick rate. So I've really seen some really great benefit in my world recently. But if I'm a staffing agency, what would be the top 1 or 2 jobs that I could see significant uplift that I could outsource to Philippines?
I would say anything HR related. So onboarding, offboarding, applicant pre-screening, setting up interviews. I would say leave the core competency to your in-house team. So whether that's actually running the interview or creating certain job descriptions or communicating directly with the customer from your side, leave that to your core team.
Got it.
If there's certain things on your core team's plate that you can take off, so let them thrive in their role here on site.
Got it.
Send that over to the Philippines and let that be done either while they're sleeping or during the same time zone. Give them an HR assistant.
That's interesting.
Admin, all the way to payroll.
Yeah.
Really anything that can be done remotely for these staffing organizations.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons we've had such a good fit with them is they send so many people on site. And so there's so much back end work to getting people to that site. So if any of that back end work can be done remotely, then
totally works.
Penbrothers is here to help.
That's great. That's awesome. Now, I know that this is your first time here at the SIA conference.
Correct.
And I understand that you came here because you have a partner that works with you that's here. In fact, I think that it's a partner that I've interviewed and has been on my podcast previously. And so essentially, you've already been doing a lot of work for the staffing industry. And you said about 40 clients here in the U.S.?
40 clients here in the US.
Staffing?
Not all staffing.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say about half maybe staffing.
Got it.
Full disclosure, I'm actually employed by one of our staffing companies.
Got it.
Cervantex. So my paycheck says Cervantex.
Nice.
But then
employer of record here,
Employer of record is Cervantex. Every day I log into the Penbrothers.
I love it.
Taking a lot of calls at night.
I love it. Everybody's outsourcing
software, man. It's all cohesive. All cohesive.
Decide whoever we want the employer of record and go out and get stuff done.
Exactly.
That's great. But essentially this idea of being able to decide how I would actually implement something. If I said to myself, I'm a staffing agency, and I said, you know what? Sounds great. I want to start with 5 headcount. Yeah. Is that something reasonable, or is it usually you have to start? Okay. So if I said, okay, start with 5 headcount, how do you usually structure it? Yeah. If I have 2 to 3 senior recruiters. And I've, hopefully my sales team is doing a great job and I have more orders than I can fill. What would it be like hierarchical where you would assign 1-to-1? Is it usually like you get an assistant that works with one recruiter, or is it generally more of a pool of management?
So it would depend on your scenario. So typically we will work with a specific job description. So if you have a senior recruiter and you say, we want to get them an assistant. Got it. Do you have a job description for the role? Okay. If you do, great. If not, don't worry. We have a very strong talent team. I would say the real muscle of Penbrothers, talking myself, of course. The real muscle of Penbrothers is the talent acquisition team based in Manila. Got it. So they'll work with you to curate a job description for the role you're looking to fill. Understood. We then post that through all our job networks in the Philippines, which is another part of our magic because we're so well connected there. With the job, local colleges, job boards, just whatever it might be. We have a very good pulse on the talent. It's great. We pre-screen, and then we send you a short listed of potential candidates. Got it. You run the interview. You select the final candidate, and then we become employer of record. Yeah, I love it. Sounds great. Well, Dylan, it's been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. I got to tell you that, for my audience, definitely think about Philippines for your outsourcing. I've had some amazing personal experiences recently. Dylan, thank you for talking to us about the value proposition. I think staffing agencies in the U.S. must do things better and faster and at a better economical, better economy. And so I think they need to look at outsourcing to be able to really grow during the cycle where pressures on our costs are really getting pushed regularly. So I think it's great to talk about and something for them to consider. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for being a guest, Dylan. As well, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Well, that's another wrap for the Growth Game podcast. We'll see you guys again very soon.